thoughts with us today. And then we'll do a couple little intros as we go, and then I'll establish some ground rules, if you will, to keep our cell phones off and make sure that there's no side talk. But you can hear me, right?
Yes.
You can hear me all right? All right, excellent. So what I wanted to do first before we meet the judges and our participants and learn a little bit about their topics is I did want to share one of my favorite quotes with us today. And this is by Maya Angelou. And she once said that she's learned that people will forget what you said, they'll forget what you've done or what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And since we are a communication department, I always want us to be thinking about how our words can, be influential, how they can, positively impact others. And I think you'll see that through some of our participant presentations today. So I just wanted us to kind of think about that and maybe make it one of your favorites as well. So now what we will do is meet our judges. Our judges are in our first row here. So first up we have Kaylee Chori. She is an academic specialist in the registrar's office. Thank you. We have Sarah Kuykendall. She is a managing assistant director in the Holocaust Resource Center that's located in the LC. And I know this is a mouthful, she's also on the Diversity Council on Global Education and Citizenship as well. And then last but not least, we have Dr. Tom Koss, and he is an assistant professor in physical therapy and also a certified orthopedic clinical specialist. There we go. Lots of words here. But thank you. Thank you for our judges too, for coming, for assessing, sharing your ideas too together for our participants as well. So now, what we will do is meet our participants. So I have our participants in the order in which they are presenting. I went with the tried and true default, everyone's in alphabetical order. It just made it easier for me to try and remember as well, even though I thought about it by the titles, but it's easier this way. So our first contestant, our first participant is Mahogany Jenkins, and Mahogany is going to be talking to us about how to motion through your emotions with pain reconciliation. Second, we have Patrick Reed, and Patrick Reed is one of our communications students as well, and his topic is making a home out of yourself by cultivating inner peace. So, and I apologize, Mahogany Jenkins is one of our media film students. And then we have, last but not least, Amanda Santina, also one of our comm studies students, and she's going to talk to us about how to eradicate self-doubt. So we can see a little bit of theme here, right? A little theme come through in some of our topics as well. We did have some other participants, but as we know, sometimes on the day of, in public speaking, some people get cold feet. So I did get some emails this morning that we would not have other participants, but what does that mean for our participants? It means, because of course there has to be something for us all, right? Our first place winner is going to get $125, our second place winner is going to get $75, and our third place winner is going to get $50. So I do have participant certificates for us today, and then we will distribute the monetary portion thereafter. So I will have that for you to take with you today. So we were able to at least be able to award in that way to everyone today. So I want us to, just consider just keeping our phones off, being more, mindful. We have a short program, it's a short event, so trying to be, attentive as our audience members as well. I know we don't have too many, but just to keep that in mind before we get started. So I'm going to be kind of the intermission between presentations. I'm going to be setting up the PowerPoint slides for our presenters, and then we will just give our presenters the floor and the stage. As you can see, you don't have to be too close to the microphone to be able to be heard, but if you get a little bit further away, you just want to project a little bit more and a little bit more. If your presenter wishes to interact with you, by all means, please interact back. We have enough time if there are questions or anything you want to follow up with the presenters to be able to do that too. Otherwise, we'll just go, and transition to the next presenter with minimal intermissions in between. So without further ado, I'm going to set up our first presenter, and that's Mahogany Jenkins. All right. And then all you have to do is right arrow and keep on pointing down. All right. Sure. You can kind of stay off to the side. That's easier to roll. Okay.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Mahogany Jenkins, and the title of my presentation is called How to Motion Through Your Emotions with Pain Reconciliation. So according to Lulu.com, to reconcile means to restore a friendly relations between, or to make amends, or to befriend. Why am I saying that this is important with emotions? Why am I saying that this is important with pain? For such a long time in my life, I was getting by. What I perceived as moving on was really me moving away from my emotions. What I perceived as time healing all wounds was really me distracting myself by working, going to school, overworking, and partying. Unfortunately, I was not ready to face the depths within myself. I was not ready to face the darkness within myself. Even at a young age, I knew that if I sat in the house and faced my emotions, I would be upset. And I knew that if I sat in the house and faced my emotions, I would be upset. I knew that if I wasn't out partying, having a good time, I would have to face my truth. Unfortunately, life got me ready. And unfortunately, life had got me ready. And everything that I had suppressed came up to the surface, and I had no choice but to investigate. I read this book by Black Girl Bliss called Please. And in the book, she asked a life-altering question. She said, what is your relationship like with your emotions? When I first read the question, I thought about it for a minute. And then I said, well, I invalidate my emotions, I judge them, I ridicule them, I don't feel safe with them, which means I don't feel safe inside myself, which means I have a toxic relationship with myself. So by a show of hands, I'm going to ask you, how many of you feel like you have a positive relationship with your emotions? Meaning you accept them, you're compassionate with them? Okay. And how many of you feel like you have a negative relationship with your emotions? Meaning you invalidate them, judge them, ridicule them. Okay. So what I've also gathered is that self-separation is the norm. It all starts first when we're born. We are absorbing beliefs and opinions of others with our parents. They're telling us what we should do, how we should act, and what they were taught. And then we fall into societal constructs, beauty standards as well. Women should do this, men should do this. And then also peer pressure. So we don't really have a chance to be inside of ourselves. And then I've gathered some subtle ones, such as overspending, over-shopping, overeating, over-explaining. I suffer from something called the nice girl syndrome, meaning that I was over-giving and I was overextended from a place of insecurity. I was doing it because I was looking for approval from other people, but I didn't know that I had to get that from myself. I was operating from a disingenuous place. I was operating from a place of lack. And then these are the obvious ones: drinking, smoking, partying, drugs, and then we invalidate, judge, and ridicule and second guess. I realized as well that I had a problem with expressing negative emotions, and I wasn't comfortable expressing anger, resentment, guilt, and this also kept me self-separated. According to Nigel and the Smalls, signs and symptoms of unresolved pain include toxic positivity, gossiping, bad attitude, complaining, lying, uncontrollable lying, defensiveness, financial irresponsibility, extreme sensitivity, people-pleasing, mood swings, and many more. Some of us are so separated from ourselves we don't even realize how hurt we really are. When I came across this list for the first time, I realized that I do most of these things. So why would a person suppress their emotions? Not feeling comfortable with expressing their emotions, not knowing how to express their emotions, being told to suck it up, or that they're being too sensitive. So, what seemed like a rude awakening was really a spiritual awakening. When I went through my dark depression in 2019, I was forced to face the darkness within me. And I learned what facing emotions and processing emotions really looked like. So I intertwined my own techniques and Black Girl Bliss techniques. And the first and foremost is allowing the emotions to surface. This is usually the easiest one. We know when we're feeling sad and when we're feeling mad, but what we do secondly really determines on how successful this will be. So welcoming them, getting intimate with them, treat them like they're a little girl, as Rachel Grover says in her book, Powerful and Feminine. The next is expressing them, having an outlet. So here are a couple questions. Where did they come from? How did they start? How were they soothed? And where do they need to be healed? So expression is an authentic expression. So like journaling, speaking, talking to a trusted friend, drawing out your anger, and then using them as a tool or a guide. Our emotions are not the enemy. They are our best friends. And that is why I talk about the importance of reconciliation, because we are building a bond with our emotions. They are not the And I'm saying motion through the emotions because emotions are meant to be moved through you. They're not meant to be stagnant. If we don't express them, they stay stuck inside the depths of us. So here I introduce to you my brand, Hopping with Hoppo, where I teach people how to hop into themselves and set a foundation of individuality, accountability, and inner peace. I do this by speaking about self-separation and inner conflict. When I took my life coach certification course, the instructor said something that really stuck out to me. He said, "Who are you without possessions, attachments, roles?" When I begin to feel my emotions and travel through the depths of myself, I realized first and foremost, I am a person. I'm a person that is worthy of feeling. I'm a person who is not going to be happy all the time. I'm a person who is safe inside of herself. And lastly, I'm a person who reconciles with her pain. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Our next presenter, Patrick Reed, I'm just going to start getting that presentation set up. And there we are. Patrick, welcome. You can come up here. I know that you're tall enough to really just almost reach that. And this is your right hand side, right?
All right, so hello, I'm Patrick Reed, and for my entire life I have been conditioned to repress all of my emotions. I mastered the art of running away from my problems, and I prided myself on being able to copy and then reflect other people's emotional output. So I was a social chameleon, living ignorant to my own feelings until last May. While sitting in a room full of friends, I felt my heart skip a few beats and my vision became blurry. So I walked outside where I was alone, and I collapsed to the ground hyperventilating. My subconscious was flooded with repressed emotions and traumas which were forcing their way out. I realized then and there that I was living in fear, afraid to feel every emotion inside me, and it was a new and overwhelming sensation that forced me to realize that my parents and friends actually had no idea who I was. So today, I'm here to prove to you that ignorance is not bliss. I'll explain why true emotional awareness is the catalyst to curing anxieties, and it was my path to finding self-love. So last year, I found myself feeling subordinate to my girlfriend, who is younger than I am, yet entirely more emotionally mature. So I compared myself to her constantly. My anxiety was rampant. I thought I must have ADHD. My mind won't stop racing. I could be insane. But false. While searching for ways to stop being distracted and anxious, I discovered that these emotions were not the root of my issues at all. Distraction is actually a symptom of why we find it difficult to focus. And this is a discovery that was made by psychologist Chris Bailey. We find it difficult to focus because our mind is overstimulated. And so like Bailey did in his personal experiments, I forced myself to listen to my own thoughts. I spent less time on my phone. I started running with no music, and I started walking dogs in silence. While I was using these activities to aid in hearing my thoughts, I began to find clarity. But why? So by providing myself with opportunities to hear myself think, I was validating my emotions and keeping my subconscious at bay, all at the same time. Now comfortable being alone with my own thoughts, I decided to share them with my girlfriend like she had done in the past. But I got the opposite of what I wanted, more disagreements, and why? So I had suffered in the mental war zone of confusion long enough, which drove me to ask for help. The book Man Enough was proposed to me, and it's written by Justin Baldoni, who's actually in Jane the Virgin, if you've ever seen it. It's all about redefining masculinity for each individual male. But I was offended by this quote that I read in the book. Are you confident enough to listen to the women in your life? And the answer is no, I wasn't. So I wondered what actually separates men and women in college. The main difference is the depth of emotional disclosure that they share with their friends. But my attempts at disclosure were causing me more issues, and they were not helping my anxiety. So one day, while clearing my thoughts out and walking on Park Ave, I realized that when I was sharing my thoughts with her about what I had learned about myself, I was also patting myself on the back mentally. This action guaranteed that I was not truly listening to her, but I was still boosting my own ego. Frustrating, because I'd been learning all about deflating my own ego from Baldoni's book. Was I that forgetful? Yes, but why? So in reality, I was actually dumping my emotions onto her without considering how she would react. At last I noticed my flaw. Disclosure was only half the battle. The other half of the battle was putting myself in her shoes momentarily to try to understand her potential reactions. So, striking the balance between sharing my feelings and understanding her feelings about the situation was the solution. I was on the right path, but at times I found myself completely incapable of listening to my own thoughts or recognizing my own behaviors. For example, at the time, my girlfriend and I both lived in New York City, and we used the packed 3rd Ave gym at 6 o'clock at night. And let me tell you, that was a testosterone-filled zoo. So at the gym, I relapsed. I went entire hours without ever checking in on my own anxieties, my self-doubts, and I fell into the pattern of habitual comparison, which took over my brain. So our society is actually addicted to comparison. Instagram and TikTok have been constantly scrutinized for the way that their algorithms cause young people to strive for a perfect body image. In fact, celebrity worship and significant time spent on social media have been directly linked to body dissatisfaction. So oftentimes on the way home from the gym, I told my girlfriend that I didn't feel strong enough, jacked enough. My own dysmorphic self-imaging and self-deprecating comments were slowly toxifying our intimate relationship. So I had made the decision to compare myself to others so many times in my life that the prefrontal cortex of my brain, the part that does critical thinking, was no longer making the decision to compare. My midbrain was taking over this action, and I was unaware of it. You can call this a force of habit. So would I be stuck in the habit of comparison every time I was in an overstimulating social scenario? No. If we can see addictive processes in action, this is where awareness comes in, and we can learn from them. If we cannot see them, we're dead in the water. This is a quote from Dr. Judson Brewer from Yale, who studies addictive habits. So this drove me to dive deeper into my subconscious to try to notice these hidden habits of mine. So using free will, I forced myself to look down at my shoes every time that I looked at another man in the gym. At first this was very difficult, but I proceeded to thank my shoes after each time I looked at a person. I thanked my shoes for carrying me to 10 blocks to my destination, showing some gratitude. So 5, 10, 20 times every gym session, I was exhaustively thanking my shoes until a small network of neurons began to form in my brain. So going off script, I just wanted to point out, on the left is the very complex human brain. Those are your neural pathways. They're really complex. Good luck understanding them. But on the right, we have a simple 1, 2, 3 kind of connection that you can form over time, like I was talking about by looking at my shoes at the gym. So those orange circles, 1, 2, 3. It could be that easy. Eventually, I was reminding myself how grateful I was that my legs carried me to the train station, to the CES building I came, and then all the way home each night. I proved to myself that repeated behaviors are what the brain deems most important, and this is a quote from Marco Bedoual. So finally, leaving New York in December, I congratulated myself, but new stressors were at large. Friends and family at home still had no idea what kind of person I'd become, and I knew that disclosing all of my emotions at once would be overkill. I learned this with my girlfriend months earlier. I let slivers of knowledge and emotion creep into conversations. I placed these small disclosures carefully and never let these moments pass without thanking myself for growing, or at least trying. By acknowledging my negative feelings, I allowed myself to change the way I viewed each interaction. So using the tools from Chris Bailey's studies and Justin Baldoni's book, negative experiences became paradoxically positive lessons. Finding a way to be grateful for all my experiences helped me love myself, even when I was overcome with fear. Finally loving myself, I had the opportunity to love other people more. Self-love allows for more genuine relationship cultivation and is not ruled by fear and anxiety. So, good for this guy. He loves himself. Well, why should I care? Because regardless of where you start on your journey to self-love, you don't have to see the whole staircase in order to take the first step. So, young men and women, enough is enough. Put down the phone and take a walk. Listen to yourself. Stop staring in the mirror, unhappy with what you see, and ask yourself the world's most important questions. Why do I feel this way? But don't get stuck sulking about it. Ask yourself what you can do to prepare, what you can do to make progress, because positively framed questions move us forward. People have suffered under the constraints of comparison for long enough. So what can you do about it for yourself? What can you do to control the immediate future? Ask these what and why questions with brutal honesty. Do this, and you will fall in love with your greatest gift, the ability to learn, which is not fixed. It can change with your effort, and therefore, failure and fear will never be a permanent condition. Thank you. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Thank you, Patrick. All right. We have our center of the evening, Amanda, and I just have to. Oh, to the right. Yeah, there you go.
How many of you can think of a list of negative things that someone has either said about you or negative things that you said about yourself? This is not a rhetorical question. You can raise your hand. I won't bite, at least not from up here. This is an open space, and I really want to get you guys thinking. Now, how many of you can think of a list of positive encouragement you've received from others, or even self-affirmations that you've told yourself? Thank you. Now, is your list of negative things longer than the list of positive things? Now, that's a rhetorical question, and I really want you to think about it. Why is it that we dwell on the negative things that we tell ourselves or hear from others? Why do we remember insults more than the times that we've been praised? When do we just stop to give ourselves a pat on the back for all the things that we've accomplished? The truth is, out of all the feedback you're going to listen to on a day-to-day basis, the most influential person you're going to listen to the most is yourself. Your mind is the biggest influencer, and it's hard to believe, but yes, your mind is an even bigger influencer than Kim Kardashian. That tiny voice in the back of your mind is a lot more powerful than we think. It affects your self-image and your sense of worth. That voice that you hear is going to tell you that you're not good enough, that you're not going to be successful. Psychologist Jennifer Gutman states that low self-esteem is linked to a critical self-concept. It is estimated that roughly 85% of people worldwide, adults and adolescents, have low self-esteem. Low self-esteem and concept brings anxiety, stress, and loneliness. And as a college student, I can say we have enough of all three. My name is Amanda Santina. I'm a communication studies major, and my presentation today is what I've learned on eradicating self-doubt. When low self-esteem develops into anxiety, it leads into depression. According to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, over 40 million adults in the U.S. have an anxiety disorder. That is 19.1% of Americans. 50% of those diagnosed with depression have an anxiety disorder. Major depressive disorder affects more than 16.1 million American adults, or about 6.7 of the U.S. population aged 18 and older in a given year. And those are just the ones that get diagnosed. It is the leading cause of disability in the U.S. for ages 15 to 44. We have to get rid of self-doubt before it turns into anxiety and before it turns into depression. If you focus on all the negative things that you have to say about yourself, or even what others may think of you, you build a wall. And that wall, it now becomes a box. And now you're in that box, and you look up, and you're stuck. That box that you put yourself in is blocking you from your growth. And to grow, you need to believe in yourself. Now, how do we even do that? The first step is recognizing these symptoms of self-doubt. Some of us constantly apologize, or we even second-guess ourselves, and we feel the need to put ourselves in the background. I know it's hard to shake those negative feelings, and I've been through it myself. I spent my first 3 years of high school feeling like I'm not good enough. I felt like this is not worth it. I even compared myself to others, and I felt very small compared to them. I didn't notice the potential that I had until a motivational speaker came and visited my class. I will never forget the Cuban guy. And that was actually what he called himself. But his real name was Andres Lara. And he made me see that no matter how low I felt that I was, I had the opportunity to pick myself back up. And I wanted to pick myself back up. You have to want it. Now, I left that class and I did a full 180. I stopped listening to that negative voice in my head. I praised myself for the baby steps and the strides that I took. I'm embarrassed to say it, but my self-doubt even affected me academically, and I graduated high school with a 2.5 GPA, and that was after I did the 180. Believing in myself and my potential brought me to where I am right now, and I can proudly say that I have a 3.9. I'd like to give you my 5 quick tips for building self-confidence. Number 1, want it. You have to want to change your mindset. Number 2, praise yourself daily, even for the little things. 3, write down your strengths so that they stick with you. 4, don't compare yourself to others. Mark Twain said that comparison is the death of joy. Dr. Stephen Swallow's research even finds that comparing breeds envy, low self-confidence, and depression. Self-confidence comes from within. Compete with being better than the person that you were yesterday. Step 5, practice confidence. Stand up straight and walk with some pep in your step. Make that eye contact. CNBC journalist Ruth Umo says, eye contact is an important nonverbal social cue because it projects confidence, self-esteem, and assertiveness. You deserve to be in any room that you walk in. And if you don't believe it, fake it until you make it real. Now I see it like this. This right here is an $100 bill. This bill is valuable. This bill is you. Now, this is you. After all the things that you've said about yourself, all that self-doubt, and after all the things that you've been through. This is still an $100 bill. This bill is just as valuable as it was before. You are just as valuable, no matter what. You just have to believe that you are. And believing in yourself means having faith in your capabilities. When you do that, you embrace the impossible. You overcome self-doubt, and you have the confidence to take action, and you choose yourself. This is my favorite quote from Marianne Williamson, famous American author and spiritual leader. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And as we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Now, you have a choice when you walk outside of that door. You can choose to listen to that hater. You can choose to listen to the excuse maker. You can choose to listen to the defensive voice that tells you not to be open. Or you can choose to listen to your biggest fan. Choose to listen to the voice that tells you to forgive yourself. Choose positivity, the voice that gives your life purpose and pushes you to be the best version of the person that you can be. That's the voice that I want you to listen to. Thank you.
All right, so that concludes our presentations this evening. It is now 4:02. We're going to take a brief intermission to let our judges confer. So I don't know if it's better to ask the judges if you want to go in the pre-function lobby, or should I ask the contestants? What might be easier? What do we think? You guys want to? Okay, so if my contestants can just exit that door there, and just to the right, there's a pre-function lobby, seats, you can relax, hang out, decompress, and we'll allow some time for our judges to speak. Alright, so is it customary to do third? Go on inverse, right? Alright, our big drum roll. Alright, so I am pleased to announce, yeah, that's perfect. I am pleased to announce our winners. So in third place, we have Patrick Reed. Alright. The suspense. In second place, we have Mahogany Jenkins. So first place goes to Amanda Stacey. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your hard work. I appreciate everyone's participation, everyone's engagement, and I hope that I will see you again next year. So thank you all, and have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you. If you would like pictures, I can put slides up. If you want them in the background, I can put these in the background. So I know we want to have text right now, but this is what we have. And then there's each of the names as well. So you have one with the place and then also your name. All right. So if you want, let me know, and I'll set up for pictures for you. Okay. You can take pictures. Do we want one of everyone? Yeah. Group shot. Oh, group shot. See, I didn't know if. Are you just on camera? Just camera?
I'll take a group shot.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'm not the best photographer. But I have an iPhone, and that makes me an iPhone photographer. All right. 1, 2, 3. Yee. Allison, would you like to stand with us? Sure.
Yeah, turn your around. There you go.
Okay, perfect.
You all did wonderful.
Thank you. All right, excellent. Okay. Yeah, you just let me know. What do you want me to set up? Any pictures up here? Thank you.
You.
Yes, I was told it was very hard to place. Thank you so much, Professor.
You did great. I love the black. Thank you. Look at that. I love all 3 of your messages. Patrick, I want to know. Are you still with your girlfriend?
I am.
All right. All right.
She's so invested in your storyline.
I'm very invested.
My story starts off before that.
Storyline.
And then this is just, here, I'll just put these over. I'll just put these over. Got it. Right here. Did each of you get a little smile?
Yes.
Very kind. She's being used, that's how you know she's being filmed. See?
Yeah, this was fun. To be honest with you, I don't know if you remember this, but I met you like last August, and I had not been to college in like 3 years, and this is an interesting turnaround. So yeah,
You were dropping.
What, I'm sorry?
You were dropping.
Yeah. I actually,
I'll go to present too.
yeah, I came from like this summer job that day that I had. I was working at a lake. Yeah, I was a supervisor at this big lake, and it was like a crazy drive. I like had to work from home. It was like impossible to leave there because of COVID. So I don't know. I'm lucky I made it here today, I guess.
Serendipitous.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, I'll be here.
Monday, 12:30.
Okay.
And the other advanced policy.
I didn't print it.
I have, yeah. I
So
was.
to my judges, I
Yeah.
appreciate all of your participation. I don't know if you want us to leave all that here. I know you might have a 4:30.
I'll do it again for sure. Yeah.
Rest of your evening.
Yeah, I should practice more, plan a little bit more ahead of time next time.
I think you're great at the rest of your audience. Very comfortable with storytelling and sharing your life.
For sure, yeah.
And we have that very comfortable.
Awesome, thank you, thank you.
Where's this person?
Yeah, no, this is, I just figured there would be some more people, but this was
Like,
fun.
you know what, I actually people would ask me out.
I mean, I'm actually surprised that I was able to do everything on time. I take a lot of credit for not taking credit, so I'm all busy.
You used to be in
And you know what,
Yeah.
then also, I do like a lot of pictures. I had to.
Yeah, most of the ideas are actually like along the way. I either found them from a couple books that I mentioned. I wish I didn't get any at the end, but they're all listed in a few books and then a lot of TED Talks. So yeah, mostly. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll grab one for the family.
She's got the high tech. She's making films, so she's got the high tech.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, let me take some of you.
Okay, so am I switching slides?
Yes, that would be wonderful. Well, you know what, they were so